Greg Ellis, nice enough to join us. Greg, obviously a Cowboys legend, but also coached Marshawn Kneeland specifically last year, his rookie season. Greg, what was the last contact you had with Marshon?
It was actually September the 3rd, to kick off the season, man. I texted him and told him that, he's ready for this year. Told him to keep his hands up because I'm a big hands guy, and told him to, make sure he wrap up the ball carrier. And he responded back with a like and a yes, sir, and with some prayer hands. And so that was my last communications with him, personally.
When you heard the news today, how shocked were you?
I was shocked. And to be honest with you, I'm still shocked. I've had people close to me, die, and you have that feeling like, could somebody please tell me that this is a big hoax, that this is a nightmare, that a joke or something, but obviously that conversation, that word doesn't come, and so just extremely shocked, man, and just felt like, it was something else I could have done. I reached out to him and talked to him by text, like I said, September the 3rd. I try to make sure that the barriers are respected because I'm not coaching there anymore. But I certainly wish, I had followed my hunch and, continue to text him. As you know, he just, recovered a fumble for a touchdown. I intended to text him after that, and not to say that would have made a difference, but I certainly wasn't going to do it, and I certainly wish I had done it, and really just staying in communication with him, and helping him to go through, that transition from college to the pros, because it takes more than just your rookie season for that to happen. So yeah, I just wish I would have did more.
And Greg, I think that's such a difficult part for, whether it's in sports or just in general, when there's a situation like this, for people to grapple with is, how could we not know, right? I mean, you've got this football team, you've got, hundreds of people in that building around this guy. He's in the spotlight. How could we not know? How agonizing do you imagine that is for this Cowboys team today?
I think it's tough for a lot of people. I mean, imagine me. I'm not over there. I hadn't been over there this entire season. And, I mean, see how I feel. So imagine for the people who are over there every day. And, you feel like, what could I have done different to help Marshon? Because you're talking about a split-second decision. And, for me, I feel like that split-second decision can be postponed, if you would, until that person is in a better mental space. And so if somebody, including myself, if we could have did something, a telephone call from me, and not to say that, hey, that's going to would have solved the problem, but, I guess it's just human nature. We all look back at ourselves and say, what could I have done to help prevent this? And I know everybody in that building, from the top to the bottom, feels the same way.
Obviously, when you're on a football team as you and he were last year, you spend so much time together, you get to know each other really on a deep level, right, Greg? Because it's like you're living together during the season. How well did you get to know Marshawn Kneeland and also the people closest to him that he's leaving behind?
He has an adorable girlfriend. I don't know if they officially got engaged, but I know they were on the path to getting married, and we used to have conversations about him and her. And so that was the person that I got to know more about, because we used to have team functions where they could bring their families over, and he would bring her over. Yeah, but, knowing him was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. He brightened every room that he walked in. And that's why, you say, man, when this kind of stuff happens, you feel like, how could this happen? It's just because he was a sunshine to a lot of people over there. And I know he was last year. Like I said, I hadn't had the opportunity to go over there this year, but last year, Marshon was a bright light in a lot of situations. He was a real upbeat guy. But I did see some withdrawal stuff from him that kind of isolated. He would isolate himself sometimes. But just a little concerned about it, but definitely nothing major that would had me to think that something like this would ever happen.
That's one of the things I've been talking about all day with Marshon, is just being close to him as I've been, which is not nearly as much time as you got to spend with him, but the smile and the laugh, resonate and they stick in my mind. And I was fortunate enough during his first training camp to sit down with him out in Oxnard, and we talked about Wendy, his mother, passing away, and how he had the strength and perseverance to that same month continue on with the combine. How much did you get an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the backstory with Wendy and what she meant to him, and if there was, I'm sure, an ongoing grief and struggle to cope with that loss?
And for me, I take the approach, I try not to, and pry is too strong of a word, but I try to just be there to be able to listen if a guys want to talk to me about something like that. And, I certainly was there for him. But when I was over there, he never brought that up to me. And so I didn't bring it up to him. But, you can see that obviously that was forever to be a part of his life, if you would. And so I, did my best to be there for him if he ever wanted to bring that up. And he didn't, my dad has passed, and it's been when I was probably 18, 19 years old. And still to this day, it still hurts me to think about him in some ways. And I have to be careful even now because I can break out and start crying. So I understand that can be tough. And so I certainly never bring that up with anybody, but just make sure I'm there if they ever want to talk about it.
Just going off of that, we see so much today, Greg, about, in response to a story like this, people urging others, ask for help. How would you echo or amplify that message?
Man, I'm going to, I fall in line with everybody else. Is just, let's help each other out. The world is a tough place. And I don't care how little money you have. I don't care if you're on TV every day, if you're never on TV, or whatever it is. We all have our struggles. And so we got to do a better job of, helping each other out and not to be at each other's throat a lot. You know what I mean? Me, myself, man, I have taken on a role of a mental wellness activist, man. And I mean, we do a lot, go around the country talking about mental health. And I learned a lot about it, and so that's why I encourage people. Everybody's not an expert. I'm not an expert. I've learned a lot of stuff here of lately, but I'm a long way from being an expert. And I think even the experts are a long way from knowing it all. But I think just being able to check and knock on people's doors, people that and it don't have to be a long conversation, but just, check, hey, how you doing, man? I'm just, everything good? And, just something to do a better job of communicating and let people know that I know you may be dealing with something, but, I may not have the answer for you. But if you ever need to vent, we can vent together, because I'm sure that I have something to vent to you about as well. And so I think the communities at large, we need to take that approach to this thing a lot more.
Amen to that. I could not agree more. I do want to ask you about the football player, Marshon, and Coach Zimmer, Mike Zimmer, was nice enough to spend some time on a call with us earlier today, and he singled you out as being really the guy on the Cowboys staff last year that was sort of like beating on the table that you wanted Marshawn Kneeland to be coming to Dallas. What do you remember about that and just loving this kid's game?
It was the process of evaluating talent for the NFL. It's an ongoing process, as you know, And so when the scouts give us the information as a coach, they give us our position groups. And, of course, Marshon was in there as a defensive end. And he caught my eye. And I would show the other coaches, hey, this kid, he has it, man. He's going to be something special. And they didn't understand why I was so high on him. And that's part of why Zim said what he said. But from the first day I saw him on film, I was like, dude, if we can get him, he's going to help us. And that led, and I fought for him all the way through. And everybody's like, man, I don't know. And I'm like, no, trust me. This guy, he can do it, man. And so right down to the bitter end, and we're in the draft room, and Jerry, I'm somewhere sitting in the complex, not in the war room with Jerry and Zim and all them, and I get a call, like everybody's calling me. Greg, come to the draft room. And I'm thinking, okay, what you need before the draft room? I go in, and Jerry is right there. Jerry says, Greg, is this our guy? Does this guy remind you of yourself when you were a football player as a young Greg Ellis? And I said, yes, sir, Mr. Jones, he does. He will be able to come in here and help us. And from there, they drafted him. And I get on the phone with him, congratulate him. And so that's probably what Zim was talking about. But, yeah, he was my guy from day one. And I hate that coaching-wise it didn't work out for me to spend more time with him and help him to develop. And not any smash against the current coaches. I'm pretty sure they're doing a good job. But, I wanted to spend time with Marshon, man. And, he was my project guy. And some of the other coaches would say, well, that's your son. I got one son. His name is Jeremiah. But Marshon is certainly a close second. And, I just wish, I had at least another year with him, working with him. And not just as a football player, but just to help coach him through that transition of what it's like being an NFL football player, especially in this big market as the Dallas Cowboys.
The grieving process will never end for many people who loved Marshon, and yet here's this football team. They're still going to play the game in Vegas, I imagine, a week from Monday, and they have to find some way to strap it up and keep playing, right? What do you imagine? And it's harder, I think, even with this story that it happens on this bye week. The team cannot literally come together and grieve together in this moment today. What do you imagine the conversations are like right now amongst these players?
Well, I think you hit it on the head. Some people may say, well, it's good they're not there. They got a bye week. And I understand why a person would say that, because they do have more time to let it digest. But the tough thing about it is, people don't know when you have a bye week, you have to get some debriefing time. And so guys tend to separate and go home and go to different places. And so the team is not together right now. I think this is a time that they definitely need to be together, proximity-wise, physically together, not just phone calls, Zooms, and all that stuff. They need to be proximity close together in the same meeting room, talking about this. But that's not going to happen right now because, they're on a bye week. And so I do think it's going to spill over more into next week, the following week when they all come back and get around each other. And because here's the thing, it's going to be a serious shock. Now, it's a shock now, but it becomes a whole new thing, if you would. And even for myself, if I go to that locker room and I know where Marshon locker is at, and you're going to see that 94 over there, and that's when it becomes, he ain't here no more. He ain't going to walk through that door. And that's pretty hard to deal with. I mean, that's everything. The person that sit with him, share seats with him on the plane on the same row, the person that he rode with or took to the airport, all of that kind of stuff, man, has been, subtracted from that organization. And obviously he's going to be missed. And if any Dallas Cowboy staff, coaches hear this, my message, Marshon definitely want you guys to continue to win as many games as you can win and be competitive and do your best out there. I know Marshon wants that to happen. And I freaking hate it, man, that, you know, things happen this way for Marshon. And, you know, just wish it was more that I personally, you know, could have done to reach out to him. And that's it. Again, my prayers to his girlfriend and all his family members, and to the Dallas Cowboys organization as well, and especially to those players and coaches, and just keep playing for Marshon.
Oh, boy, yeah, it's an empty feeling, Greg, and what I can say is you're doing his memory honor by sharing as you have here, and really appreciate the time, and most of all, so sorry for your loss.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.